Mr. Ganju, let's begin with how the representation of African Union, what would that really mean for the Global South? And will G20 then represent really the voice of the Global South, taking into consideration concerns of the Global South?
Thank you. Coming back to me, what I feel on behalf of the African Union is, for anything to happen in this world, somebody has to take a lead. So we're very happy that India has taken a lead to have a Global South and promote it for the benefit of the continent and the benefit of the Global South. So our support to the Global South initiative will be there always, because it will benefit all of us. And once you have a Global South organization per se, you can really become a voice by which you can confront, not to oppose anything, but you can have a power to demand, to power to do things which are for the good of the population of the South.
Well, that's an important point you make, because he's already said that there should be a Global South organization, another multilateral in the making. Ambassador Al-Hussein, would you respond to how the African Union becoming a part of G20 is reflective of, representative of the Global South?
Actually, African Union, by joining the G20, that will make the representation of this G20 more inclusive, more representative, and more influential. By joining the G20 will, instead of representing like 65% of the world population, then it will speak on behalf of the 80% of the planet's people. By joining the G20, the voice of the South definitely will be in a better situation to be represented in this important multilateral forum.
Right.
And again, the African continent and the African countries have shown a serious commitment for the problems that facing the South. And by joining the G20, the African continent will be in a better position to address all those challenges that being faced by the South itself.
Well, Ambassador Issa, the fact that America, China, all these countries that have opposing views, have no consensus when it comes to the joint communique, are coming together on one front, that they are ahead of their presidential visits or the premier coming here, have said that this G20 is going to talk about developing and emerging economies. And the focus is going to be that. So how important do you think then is the G20 to have more of these emerging economies becoming a part of the G20?
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'd like to make a statement here that we believe firmly in the cooperation, South-South cooperation. And as countries of the Global South, we know that there is a solidarity between us. And having said that, we know that things are moving, since things are not the same than last century. Now we have the balance of power are moving after the Cold War, and then after so many events, and now the BRICS, the creation of the BRICS, and now the African Union integrating the G20. So all these factors brings solidarity among all those from the Global South to reach the same level of development of the northern country or western countries. And the objective is, again, the main objective of all our action, the Global South, is to give the wellness to our population,
right,
to fight poverty. This is the ultimate objective. And to reach that objective, it is by cooperating South-South, that by sharing the knowledge, by sharing India has tremendous knowledge in technology. India has tremendous knowledge in how to develop their medical facilities.
Right.
India is now it became the most populated country. And Africa is where India used to be 50 years ago. So we are expecting to follow the steps of India to become an emerging country.
Right, following the steps of India, but also the objective of the African Union is to ensure that there's alleviation of suffering and eradication of poverty. Ambassador Al-Hussain, coming to you, concerns. When it comes to concerns, how do you respond to those who are questioning African nations' sovereign decisions? Your sovereignty is yours. If you're engaging another country, you're engaging another country. But to say that you have influence, you're being influenced by one country or the other, how do you respond to that?
Actually, if I understand your question well, you know, in international relations and international politics, always competition are there. And the international community or the international relations invented these multilateral forums to bring all these countries together to discuss their differences and to plan for the benefit of the people of the world. In this regard, or having said this, having different opinions between countries within international organizations and international forums is only natural. And through bringing them together to these forums, that is the right way to let them address, discuss, and find solutions for the challenge. The issue of sovereignty is well understood and well reserved. I mean, the international law recognizes the sovereignty of each country, but that doesn't prevent those countries to cooperate in these multilateral forums.
Right. One of the most important things that we have experienced post the Russia-Ukraine war is food and energy crisis. How did Africa deal with the impact of not just COVID, the pandemic, but just immediately after the food and energy crisis? And how do you see an economic forum such as G20, Ambassador Issa, really look into and cater to the needs of Africa as well?
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, we are human beings, and crises are there to remind us our vulnerabilities. And as human beings, crisis or any kind of problems are made to be overcome. So crises are good because it pushes us to go beyond our limits. And Africa has the necessary means, necessary soil, necessary everything to go beyond the food crisis brought by Ukraine and Russia conflict. It's just a matter of investment and a matter of education, a matter of reinvesting in the human resources. And Africa is full of human resources. So Africa is only lacking actual income, but it will bring its efforts to sort out whatever they need with the help, technical help, and building capacity of the G20s in government members that has already some know-how in this and make a transfer of knowledge.
Right. Ambassador Al-Hussain, the other important aspect is climate change. We have seen the scourge of extreme weather conditions. We have seen how climate change has impacted the world, but certain areas of Africa particularly so. How do you see the Global South raise its voice, and Africa is part of the Global South, raise its voice against those who have had first movers advantage in the West? How does G20 and the African Union come together to fight climate change?
Definitely agree with you that climate change now is represent a serious threat to the planet. And right now, the African countries are holding their summit in conference, on climate change. One of the most problems of the climate change in African countries is that in order for African countries to fulfill their commitments towards the climate change, they need to receive financing. So the inclusion of the African Union in the G20 will go hand in hand with the with one of the objectives of the G20 in climate change.
Okay.
And that inclusion will provide a good opportunity for the African countries to fulfill its commitments and at the same time to receive the necessary finance to do that.